Welcome to Soltron. This is a video review for Tribal Beast, Chivalry Tiger, white and yellow. Here's how they scale with Transformers and the custom Liger Prime that I made. Okay, let's start with the yellow tiger. He's got a pretty interesting head sculpt. It's very refined looking, I guess. He looks kind of like nobility or something. He's got a very tiny little mouth. It would be nice if they made the mouth detail a little bit more obvious. And the helmet looks really good, but the face is a little bit plain looking. They probably could have added a couple more little details in there to make the face look just a little bit less generic. And then the body looks pretty good. I really like these gems in the shoulder and then the gem in the cod piece here. So he's got a pretty good look to him. It's a little bit kibbly back here, but otherwise, it's a very sleek, Cheetor-looking kind of figure. It's very narrow. And he does have this twin blade weapon, which can peg together, so he can pull off some pretty cool poses. It's a pretty awesome looking weapon. And then the weapon does come apart, so you can just have him dual wield these swords. And those just slide into the fists here. And they're pretty good, solid fit, so they're not loose at all, so that's nice. And then yeah, you can get some really good looking poses out of this guy. I think the design kind of grows on me. I would say that this robot is probably maybe an 8. It's pretty sleek looking. It's got its own style, which I really appreciate, so it's not very generic looking. And then for the quality of the plastic, I would say that it's probably about a 7. It's a little bit, actually maybe an 8. It's actually feels pretty good in most places. And I've gotten figures from this company before, so I was actually surprised that this figure feels so good in hand. But let's go ahead and put these swords away. And then another nice feature is these swords do peg onto the back for storage, so they just slot right there. So that's pretty cool, and because this figure has fairly good articulation, he can actually reach over and behind and actually grab the swords from behind his back. So that's definitely a bonus. That's pretty good play value right there, that he can actually reach these and fit them in his fist. So that's pretty cool. I like that a lot. So as far as articulation goes, this figure does have like a ball jointed neck, so that feels pretty good. And then outward motion on the shoulder only goes this far, so that's limited. But he does have bicep swivel, so that's nice. And he does have 90 degree at the elbow here. And then a wrist hinge. It's kind of a ball joint, but you don't get much up and down out of the joint. But it is a ball joint that rotates all the way around, which is good for sword poses. And then he's got a ratcheted hips, or a ratcheted waist that goes 360. And then these skirts do lift out of the way. And you see something I really don't like is this got like this nylon kind of post that holds the whole hips together. And I don't know that that's going to hold up over time. It's pretty narrow. And then the legs have about this much bend, which is a little bit disappointing. So it's about 90 degrees, and it breaks the sculpt a little bit for transformation. And then moving down, he does have an ankle rocker a little bit, so this is also on a ball joint. So you can get some decent articulation out of that, but it's not a huge amount of posing. Oh, and then you get a lot of outward kick on the hip, and then a good forward kick, and then a good backward kick as well, all on ratchets, which is pretty nice. So yeah, I really like the style of this robot, but one thing that does bug me is this ugly tiger head. It looks kind of like a lizard. It just does not look right. It's way too wide. It just doesn't look right, especially when you compare to our white tiger, who has a great looking tiger head that looks correct. So you can see a pretty big difference here. I'm not sure why they went that way. So let's move on to our white tiger, who's got a pretty bold looking head sculpt. The eyes do have like a light piping, but there's no light piping in the back of the head to let the light through. So it's kind of just dead looking, even though it's translucent blue like the tiger eyes. So that's pretty disappointing. I think this head looks a little bit more interesting. It's got like thicker lip, so that helps with the readability of the face. And then I really like this orange head crest. This plastic kind of looks like candy, but I really like it. I don't know, it actually looks like 3D printed, but I still like the way it looks. So overall, this figure, he looks really good. He looks a lot like the White Tiger Zord from Power Rangers. He's pretty blocky looking, but he's got no kibble, so he's looking really good to me. I like the look of this figure a lot. I wish he had a better weapon because he comes with like a gun, which kind of doesn't fit this figure to me. So I would say this guy is like a 9 for looks. He's a pretty good looking robot. I like the way he looks a lot. But then for the quality of plastic, this guy, I think his plastic is a little bit worse than yellow. This plastic feels, I think I've bought figures from this company before, and this plastic feels like that old plastic. It's got a little bit of brittle thinness to it. So I'd rate this guy probably a 7 for durability, for just quality in hand feel. So here's a look at his gun. It's nice that it has like these painted details. It's not just all black, but again, doesn't really do anything with this figure for me. He doesn't really look very cool holding it, especially because he can't. And the other wrist is loose, so I like to put it in this hand. But especially because he can't, like, the gun cannot rotate in his hand, so he can't really use like a two-handed pose, like a rifle pose. I think that would make him look a lot better, but he just doesn't have the capability. So let's give him like a 360. So you can see he looks pretty good all the way around. Just no kibble there, just very solid looking robot. Doesn't even really look like he would transform into anything. So pretty well done on that. And then he does have a swivel head. It only turns this far though because the chin gets in the way. He does have full outward range on the shoulder on a nice ratchet. 360 on this, again on a ratchet, you can hear it. And then he's got this double joint elbow, but you're only ever going to get 90 degrees no matter how you do it. They just didn't engineer this elbow correctly. So that's too bad. So it's kind of a waste of a double hinge. And then he's got, of course, wrist swivel as well, also on a ball joint. So you can get a little bit of play there as well. And then he does have waist articulation on a little bit softer ratchet. And then these skirts move out of the way. And he does have an outward kick. So his A stance is only going to be about that wide. That's about as wide as he can spread. And then because of transformation, he's got like this double hip joint. So you can actually get him a little bit wider, it looks like. So you can get him about there. So that's a pretty wide spread. And then let's get this arm out of the way. He can kick this far, and this is on like a detented ratchet. It's not a solid ratchet. And then the outward motion is on a very strong ratchet. And then he's got like this much back kick, and then he's got like a butt plate here that blocks him. And then for the forward kick, he's got a good exactly 90 degrees. And then he also has like a toe articulation, which can help with those A poses. And this goes all the way around, so that's pretty nice. So that can help give him a lot of stability. But overall, I think this is a really good looking robot. The head sculpt could be a little less generic, but he's looking pretty good overall. Okay, before I get into transformation, I do want to get into, I think this is the same company that made the Celestial Beast Megazord, or Celestial Warriors Megazord. This is probably the first robot I started buying from Sir Toys because I really like the look of it. And I like that it used the feng shui animals. So I really like that it used the white tiger, green dragon, and then the turtle, black turtle. and the keyring and the red phoenix. And then it's also got, if you look at the tiger head, it's got, this tiger head is kind of funky looking, just like the ones on this toy. And the plastic quality for these figures is like exactly the same as the white tiger here. Okay, let's go ahead and transform this guy. So it's actually simple as you think it would be, but it's also got a little bit of complication to it. So these back bracers fold down to make the tiger foot, and then you're just going to rotate. Well, actually, yeah, you rotate the wrist forward. And then you're going to take the chest here and open that up. That opens on a panel, and you're going to rotate the head sideways because it doesn't fit any other way. And then you're going to close the panel back up. And then you're going to pull out the tiger head. So it's got this nice extending joint right here. And then that's going to peg into the neck joint where the robot was. And then you're going to fold down that, or fold up that arm you transformed earlier, and then you're going to rotate the tiger head all the way around. So this is actually what he's going to look like. Okay, so here's the front of our tiger. It's looking kind of like a frog to me because this ugly head, and then the neck doesn't quite extend far as it needs to extend, but let's go ahead and keep working on him. So we're going to take the butt flap and just extend everything, and that's going to also become the tail here. And then you're going to rotate these knee pads down on the leg, and then use this double joint to bend the knee in the wrong direction. And then there's this extra joint in the calf to make it look more like a tiger's joint. And then basically that's the entire tiger mode right there. And then this little butt flap is going to tab in right there. Okay, and then if we clean him up a little bit, maybe rotate these legs backwards and give him a more natural looking pose, and get this on the floor. There's his tiger mode. It's kind of ugly, especially, again, this head really bugs me, and then the back legs are just too narrow compared to the front legs, and they're supposed to be that narrow because this is supposed to tab in and lock them into place. So you can't really, unless you untab them, you can spread out the legs a little bit, which makes them look a little bit more natural. But pretty ugly tiger mode, not the best effort. And then I guess the tail should really hang down here. So I'd say this tiger, it's just so gross to look at and just skinny in all the wrong places. I'd say this tiger is probably like a 5. I just don't like the look of this thing. Okay, let's go to white tiger. So we're going to rotate these fists, or these claw panels are going to rotate in front of the fist here, and then they're just going to click down to hide the fists. So you're going to do that on both sides. Okay, so no surprises there. You're going to pull out the tiger head so he gets a little bit of extension too, which is nice. And then you're going to open up this back panel, and then the head has kind of a double joint. So you're going to rotate the tiger head up, and you're going to push the robot head back, and that'll fit nicely into this back section. And then you do the same thing. You're going to rotate the tiger in the waist, and then rotate these biceps all the way around. I think I forgot to say he has bicep, but unfortunately they're on these mushroom pegs, so they might slide off because the tolerances on this guy are a little bit wonky, unfortunately. And there you go, you have the front half of a tiger looking pretty convincing already. Okay, and the back half is where things are going to get weird. So you're going to open up this panel just like on yellow, and then that's going to peg into here. And then you're going to break the legs, so the knees are going to bend this way, and then you're going to rotate them down and bend them this way. And then you're going to rotate down here in the calf, there's another joint. You're going to bend that up to make a more natural looking lion leg or tiger leg. And then you're going to fold out the claw here, and then the robot foot you can just fold up. So now you got a pretty good looking beast leg back here that transforms very convincingly. Okay, so when you do the other leg, it's going to look like this. And then one last thing you have to do is use those double joints on the hips and angle these hips down, and they almost sandwich together. And that's going to let you clip all this together. So this makes kind of the rear of the tiger. And then all around he's going to look pretty good. Alright, and here's White Tiger. I'm actually really pleased with this leg transformation. They used a lot of interesting techniques I've never seen before that really like lengthen the torso of the tiger, which is what it needs. And then of course he has an opening and closing mouth. It doesn't open very much though. And then he's got all the same robot articulation, and now this new joint for the back legs, which works really well. So he looks really good. I think this tiger's way more convincing. The head could probably be a little bit more robotic to match the rest of its body, but that's kind of a nitpick. I would say that this tiger is one of the best looking robot tigers I've ever seen. I'd rate this guy a 9 for sure. He's a good looking tiger. He actually, everything just looks like it should. Okay, here's the tigers. This one still has weapon storage on the back. And this one now has a new port where you can put in the gun, so that looks pretty cool. The only thing I wish they would have done was make this hip skirt. These are a little bit loose and they're on ball joints. I wish this could have rotated up to cover this gap right here. I think that would have been really good engineering, but otherwise, these guys are pretty fun to play with. I enjoy them both a lot. I think the playability on both these figures is really good, and for the price point, it's definitely worth it. So I'd say the playability for both is definitely a 9. They're fun to just transform and pose, and they both have great articulation. And here they are with Tigatron and Liger Prime. And then one thing I think could have been better on this guy was if his head could actually extend even more and could have this kind of joint. That would actually make him look pretty great. But anyway, if you're interested in these figures, definitely buy them from Sir Toys. The link is in the description. And I'll see you next time.